This is WFYI News Now. It's August 22nd, and I'm Abriana Herron. On today's show, the impact of clean energy projects spurred by the Inflation Reduction Act 2 years later. Chief Justice Loretta Rush will serve another 5 years. And green transit is one area Indianapolis struggles to improve when it comes to sustainability efforts.
There's a lot of room to do more in terms of thinking about those active modes of transportation and how to encourage those.
Those stories coming up. But first, a move to address years of dysfunction with Indianapolis's animal care services is part of the 2025 Indianapolis budget plans. WFYI's Jill Sheridan reports IACS will become its own agency.
The change will provide more than $1 million in additional funding for the new department. IACS currently operates under the Department of Neighborhood and Business Services. At a budget meeting this week, BNS Director Abby Brand says they know the main issues plaguing animal services.
It's backyard breeding, it's access to spay and neuter care, especially low and no-cost spay and neuter care, and just generally veterinary and medical care. It's education within this community, and it's a alignment of human services and animal services.
The city recently passed a measure to create a registry for dog owners to prevent backyard breeding. The city is also building a new shelter that will help alleviate overcrowding problems. IACS will operate as a new agency in 2025. I'm Jill Sheridan.
Indiana is one of the states that has benefited the most from clean energy projects spurred by the Inflation Reduction Act. That's according to the green business advocacy group E2. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Rebecca Thiel reports since the law passed 2 years ago, more than $7.8 billion worth of private investment has come to the Hoosier state.
Most of the money has gone to EV battery manufacturing plants for companies like Samsung, Stellantis, and Toyota. E2 Executive Director Bob Keefe says more than half of all clean energy projects that came out of the IRA have been in red congressional districts. He says that shows there shouldn't be anything partisan about the clean energy economy.
The good news is these are bringing opportunities to places around the country that frankly have been bypassed or hurt by previous economic transitions. We're finally getting going again in the right direction in what is the biggest market opportunity in the world right now.
The IRA has also funneled hundreds of millions of dollars toward public sustainability projects in Indiana, like solar for lower-income communities, electric vehicle charging stations, and home energy efficiency upgrades. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Rebecca Thiel.
Few of the clean energy projects proposed so far have been announced in Indiana's lower-income Black and brown communities. Keefe says the upcoming presidential election could threaten IRA funding. There have already been several attempts to roll it back in Congress. Indiana Chief Justice Loretta Rush was chosen Wednesday to serve another 5-year term as leader of the state Supreme Court. The Indiana Judicial Nominating Commission reappointed Rush for a third term as Chief Justice. The commission, made up of attorneys and gubernatorial appointees, interviewed all 5 members of the Supreme Court. Rush's colleagues each spoke glowingly of her leadership, with the youngest and newest justice, Derek Moulter, comparing her to the Indiana basketball stars Caitlin Clark and Tyrese Halliburton.
It's impressive what she can do on her own, but what transcends, what's incredibly impactful is the way in which she kind of brings the team up around her.
Each of the justices talked about the challenges that lay ahead for the judicial system: attorney shortages, a need for greater diversity, and improving access. Rush says one of the issues top of mind for her in the new term is judicial security.
I worry about our judges. I've never seen threats as both within the Supreme Court and within our trial court judges as high as they are right now.
Rush also faces a retention vote as a justice in this fall's general election. And for our final story today, a feature story from myself. With climate change on the top of mind for many Indianapolis residents, the city is working to increase its sustainability effort, yet it continues to fall behind. In one area, clean transit, it persistently struggles. When the 2024 City Clean Energy Scorecard was released this year, Indianapolis's ranking wasn't a surprise to Lindsay Tremeri, Community Engagement Manager with the city's Office of Sustainability.
I I don't think any of us expected to be number one or top 10. So to improve, I think, is a good sign.
Indianapolis is among the worst in the country for energy efficiency, according to a report by the American Council for an Energy Efficient Economy. The report ranks cities on their sustainability efforts based on several factors, including electric vehicle infrastructure improvements, transit access, and bikeability. Transportation is a main factor contributing to Indianapolis's low score, as it makes up about a third of the city's total carbon emissions. Stefan Samaripas is a senior manager of the Energy Council that did the study. He says Indianapolis has done a good amount of planning to lower emissions in the transportation sector, but there's still more that could be done.
Particularly, I think there's a lot of room to do more in terms of thinking about those active modes of transportation and how to encourage those.
Indianapolis has struggled to create safe, connected infrastructure for walkers and bikers, and continues to heavily fund roadways and other projects to improve transportation for vehicles. Other reports have found Indianapolis consistently lags in areas of transit ridership, pedestrian activity, and EV adoption rates. The city does have a plan to improve emissions and promote clean transit with Thrive Indianapolis. Measures laid out in that plan include increasing greenways and trails and creating transit-oriented development that builds more density in urban areas.
And that requires developments going in along our bus rapid transit lines to be focused on serving individuals and lifestyles that don't require a car.
When Indianapolis launched its first bus rapid transit program, it committed to a fully electric fleet, a move in the right direction to reduce emissions. But the BRT lines have faced many challenges, including pushback from state legislators and increased prices in efforts to move forward. Electric vehicles are another way to reduce emissions and promote clean transit. It was a hot, early summer morning outside of the Julia M. Carson Government Center along busy Fall Creek Parkway. Denise Abdul-Rahman helped create a statewide coalition of minority organizations to ensure they benefit from having electric vehicle charging stations in their communities.
So that EVs are traveling through our communities, that we're not just hosting the diesel fumes and once again being the ones most disproportionately impacted health-wise, climate-wise.
Abdul-Rahman says it's not surprising that Indianapolis needs transit improvement, especially when it comes to the implementation of EV infrastructure. Recently, the Alliance called for a more equitable approach to the Indiana Department of Transportation's EV infrastructure plan.
INDOT did just enough, but why not go over and above? Or why not do something that is truly meaningful, that is going to include everyone?
The coalition stated issues with transparency, public engagement, and the selection of charging sites. Tremere, with the city's sustainability office, acknowledges the role EV infrastructure plays in curbing carbon emissions in Indianapolis. She says it's only a partial solution.
It's not like the golden solution that's going to fit everything for so many reasons, equity being a huge one.
Equitable transit can look like the Purple Line BRT project set to launch in October that has improved sidewalks along 38th Street and has invested in safer roadways in neighborhoods that need it the most. The 2023 Thrive Indianapolis annual report states the city has exceeded its target goal for the number of registered EVs and increased greenways and trails by nearly 23 miles since 2017. The city intends to be carbon neutral by 2050. For WFYI News, I'm Abriana Herron. That's all for today's episode of WFYI News Now. Our podcast is produced by Drew Dodlin, with support from the news team at WFYI and public media journalists across the state. Our news director is Sarah Neal Estes. Kendall Antron produced our music, and I'm your host, Abriana Herron. If you like today's episode, remember to subscribe and share. And follow WFYI on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube to check in on our newsroom throughout the day. Thank you for listening. We'll be back tomorrow.